welcome to Friday night here with Syncretism with Tony Z, yours truly, Kate of Gaia, and Santo Bonacci. Jordan tagged me in an email about 40 minutes ago. He was waiting until the last minute to see how he was feeling. He's been going through the flu. So hopefully he's tuned in, and we'll just flow all sorts of light, love, and energy at him. But just let people know that this Friday night is sacred ground for Santo and Jordan, and we'll be protected. Anyway, how are you guys doing?
Well, thanks.
Awesome. Quite a week, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tony, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi,
okay.
people.
Howdy, Tony.
Hi, mate.
Yeah.
Some serious stuff been hitting the fan these last couple of days, hasn't there? Especially Pope-wise.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you've been all over that, Tony. I know a lot of stuff that the information that you're getting out is getting serious coverage, readerships and, of course, listeners and what have you right now. But maybe you can expand on that before we get ripping in, because I think that's going to be a lot of the subject tonight as far as, what's going on in the world and the as above and so below nature of things and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seriously hitting the fan out there, and it's all good stuff. Rome is trembling and are coming down by the looks of things. What do you reckon, Santo?
Well, all I can do to answer that is evoke some imagery. The Pope wears a hat that looks very, very funny, but if you turn him around 90 degrees, you'll notice that it's the fish hat of Dagon. And that fish represents Pisces, and he has just removed that hat off because Pisces is over. So that about answers it.
Yeah, I know you covered that in good detail this week already. The way things are lining up, and of course, I guess the Patrine School just got closed for the season.
Yeah, what a smart aleck, He knew that comment would have gone way above everybody's head. I am not adequately suited anymore to exercise the Patrine ministry. The rock ministry, the rock being Jupiter, the dude who has all the angular momentum in the solar system, absorbs all the meteorites and comets and all sorts of debris and sucks it all up for us, takes the hits. And the one that ejected his thunderbolts from... By the way, I did a webinar yesterday on astrology, the sacred science.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, and I showed how I did the chart for when the thunderbolt of Zeus hit the Vatican, St. Peter's Square at 5:59 p.m., exactly 6 hours after the announcement, you see. What happened, you see, was Jupiter / Zeus, or let's just do what everybody else does and call him Jesus, shall we, left the building. Mr. Pisces, Jupiter, is no longer effective. You see, when you're out of your sign, which means since Aquarius has turned up, Jupiter's influence is severely diminished. Oh, he can rock and roll all he wants when he's in Pisces, but when he's in Aquarius, he has to submit to someone else. And so Popey Poo had to do what Peter Poo, or Jupiter in heaven, did, and that is retire on the same day, Anyway, the point is, I did the astrological chart, and guess where Jupiter was positioned when he ejected the thunderbolt, and he was aspecting with 6 planets at the time that were descending. Mars, Uranus, all were on the descendant. They were all on the horizon setting when good old Jupiter was exactly in the mid-heaven at 12 o'clock position. So Jupiter was right up there. It was getting dark. It was 6 p.m., but Jupiter was right at 12 o'clock position, and he was talking to 6 planets among trines and squares, Mars going down on the descendant. This is all significant stuff, folks, because 6 hours prior to that, Uranus had not even Jupiter had not even ascended, and Saturn was also below the horizon. Just those two orbs were below the horizon in the darkness, and the other 8 planets were directly above in the mid-heaven position. Very, very unusual configuration, which means that if you go to the chart, any astrological website, and click on 11 a.m. 11th of February 2013, and you will see the most amazing shape, beautiful shapes. You'll see the tops of 2 kites. Astrologers know what this is. And the tops of the kites, the pyramid tops, are pointing to, guess who? If it isn't Uranus, one kite is being produced by Uranus in Aries, and the other one by Pluto in Capricorn. I think we've discussed that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now,
go ahead.
Yeah, now astrologers know that Pluto in Capricorn is destroying external structures, external authority. And what is Uranus, the other revolutionary, doing in the other cardinal sign, Aries? Well, Aries is the cerebrospinal system, the head in the human being, the command center, the control center. All orders issue forth from the land of Aries, the sign of Gad in the Jewish system. So the rebel Uranus is up there. Individuality. No conformity with Uranus, guys. Uranus means heavens in Greek. Uranos. Yeah, when you go to Uranus, you go to heaven. So Uranus is in the heavens, the head, heaved up in the body, and he's directing the orders and revolutionizing and changing things. When Uranus was discovered in 1781, it was only a few short years that we had revolutions everywhere, folks. Because that's what Uranus does in the head, in Aries. And since the sheep rule the cardinal axis of the equinoxes, which refers to balance, and Libra is also one of those equinoctial signs, the scales of justice and the Lamb of God both have to do with ecclesiastical concerns, balance, spirituality. Whereas the other part of the cross, Capricorn, the earthy and the watery, Cancer, they have to do with earthy things, politics, government. So we can see that this cardinal cross is really, really getting a workout. And what is going on is that the ecclesiastical and the governmental, which means, which covers the king and the priest, spoken of in Revelation, that we will all be kings and priests one day for 1,000 years, because a king is a sovereign, and a priest is one who knows his spiritual duties on this earth. And so that's what's going on as above. And that's why all of that stuff happened. If you are an astrologer, or you have even the slightest understanding of how astrology works, and you do the chart for February 11 o'clock, and then you go to 5:59 and you see where Jupiter was when he ejected his Zeus-style thunderbolt, you'll know exactly what's going on. You will not need any other signs from heaven. In fact, when Jesus was on the earth, in the literal mind of the literal churchgoers, he was confronted by people who wanted signs from heaven. Give us a sign from heaven. You ever see the life of Brian? And Brian's, oh, give us a sign, Messiah. You don't need them. It's in astrology. In fact, that's what it's talking about. Heaven is astro, last time I checked. So astrology, science of give us a sign from heaven.
Yep.
God, you're talking to, when you're talking to the consensus world, which is, how I do my little mono, what do you call these, mono tribes?
Monologue.
Monologues, yeah. But anyway, it is frustrating sometimes, Kate. But look, we shall hold the torch of light up and hope that critical mass will happen, if it hasn't already, and our brothers will see this beautiful light.
Oh yeah, you know, it was a very profound statement. It was on. I'll have to dig it up on my Facebook that someone had posted, and it's so very true. You know, with regards to fear, and that is the only thing. That is the only thing. That is the only thing that they have to control us. And I've been saying it for a very long time. Lose the fear, get in gear. You know, for those that, especially the religiocosis types, you know, do you have that little faith in quote, your God, unquote, that you fear death somehow? You know, if apparently you're going to be in paradise, what is there to fear? You see? So, you know, it's a fundamental core emotion that has been indoctrinated and entrained into us with our, you know, let's say the darker aspects of our consciousness here. And all we have to do to break free is to lose the fear. And it is that easy, you know. I'm going to dig up this quote, but I thought it was extremely powerful. It made total sense to me, and it resonated beyond. You might be able to expand on, I think the word that was used was dhyana. I wasn't familiar with it, but I'm assuming it's a heightened state of awareness from the East. Just based on what it was spelled, I never claimed to be an expert in anything. It's just an observer of all. Where are we here? Yeah, I'm going to read this quote, and I think everyone listening will resonate with it. Okay, this is from Robert Anton Wilson. This is the gentleman that quoted this. There is no governor anywhere. You are all absolutely free. There is no restraint that cannot be escaped. If everybody could go into dhyana at will, nobody could be controlled by fear of prison, by fear of whips or electroshock, by fear of death even. All existing society is based on keeping those fears alive, to control the masses. 10 people who know would be more dangerous than a million armed anarchists. Robert Anton Wilson. And he's quite correct.
Oh, absolutely. You know how to deal with fear? And thugs that try to perpetrate the system? I'll give you a nice little video for the listeners. Listeners, grab a pen and paper, please. You really might want to make this one go viral. 28 minutes of sheer brilliance. You will see how to deal with thugs that come to foreclose on houses and to tell you that the banks are going to take your property off you. Please look at the video on YouTube called "The People v. the Banks - Conviction Beats Eviction." And please make this go viral. Let the world see the faces of these bullies and thugs. Inquisitional officers of the Vatican is what they are. And one day that, what I just said, will be fully vindicated when all secrets are exposed. That all costumed morons, that's what they've been reduced to now, because they're working for foreclosed corporate entities, so they're on their own now, really. They were anyway. They were travelling without bonds anyway, the idiots. So they'll have to pay for their actions now. But nonetheless, let's have pity for these costume types, because they've got nothing now, man. They've got no protection at all. And they're going to come to you with tasers. Please see this video, people. Spread it far and wide. The People v. the Banks. Conviction beats eviction. See how these two Irish beautiful gentlemen kindly and lovingly call the police, and the police also help to remove these two sheriffs, thugs and absolute human animals. Sorry to have judged them, but I love them. I love animals. but they're animals in human being costumes, let alone their sheriff, bailiff, whatever crap word they want to use, costume. But just please see how beautiful our brothers are around the world, and notice how very eloquent and how very easy it is to get rid of fear and the fiction, folks. Very easy.
Absolutely. Just sharing that link right now. Thanks, Pat. And I do want to do a few shout-outs here tonight. We do have such a beautiful, beautiful group of people around us all the time, and I got to say, and Pat truly did their premiere show last night on Critical Mass Radio here, Leaving the Farm, and what a beautiful show it was. It was just nice to actually sit back and sit in on it. It was something to behold, and also wanted to do a shout out for Critical Mass Radio as well. Tony, you might want to throw in some extra details there, and of course, we've been getting literally mobbed on Syncrenicity.com over the last couple of days, and I think Tony might have had a little something to do with that. But anyway, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just cutting a long story short, as some of the listeners to the show might know, we've had quite a close working relationship with Kevin Annett, Kate especially. And Kevin's been making some serious breakthroughs, serious breakthroughs, like the biggest breakthroughs in 2,000 plus years. And all of this information we've obviously been party to, so we've been releasing the information, especially the last link that was just released about how the Roman Church had just admitted guilt of the Pope. Again, this is brand new, exclusive, breaking stuff. And for the past couple of days, we've been releasing these articles, and they've been knocking everything off the charts. I mean, today alone, this is unheard of, but today we've had over 6,000 hits on Syncrenicity. So the information that's in the site, and it's getting out there. You know, finally, people are beginning to catch on. Thank God. People are beginning to get it. And obviously, when they come to the site and they can actually see some of this information, then they've got access to all of the rest of it. So we've been totally busy getting this stuff out. And it's all good stuff, and it's breaking new ground. So we really are in the golden age, guys. Buckle up, because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Yeah, it's awesome. And as for Critical Mass as well, there's an event coming up quite shortly. I'll go into it in a bit more detail later. But there's going to be an event in, I believe it's Liverpool. I need to call up the information, and I'll give a shout out later on about that event. So, yeah, things are happening all over the place, and it's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, lots of wonderful energy. You know, yeah, it leaves me speechless, actually, which is something to be said, huh? Anyway, yeah, it's the important thing is, you know, people are awakening, and it's not an accident, and it is in perfect sync with what's going on in the heavens, as above, so below. And this is all people need to do is to wake up to the realities of what we're dealing with. And I can't back you up enough, Santo, in terms of astrotheology being, you know, the holy science, the true science of all sciences, in the most hermeticist of ways. It's like reading a roadmap, and you do it so well. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Well, this is the thing, you understand it. That's why you appreciate it. It's our wisdom, it's our knowledge, and it's our understanding, and we're remembering it, and it will be reinstalled on this here planet before any critical mass can, you know, overtake us. It will be reinstalled. It will be the controllers have always used the left brain teaching, pyramid, male hierarchy, fear structure way of teaching the sheeple for a couple of thousand years, you see. And that is over because everybody's frustrated with that. It all ends up in dead-end roads. Everybody's dissatisfied with the world. Yeah, we congratulate ourselves with with our smartphones when we're doing all these clever things with our fingers. Oh, look what I just did. Oh, that just happened all around the world. I just pressed that button. Oh, we're so clever. But half of those people that are pressing those phones are on 7 different types of medication, going to church and indoctrinated by Rockefeller and Rothschild-funded Christian fundamental Ku Klux Klan money. And so how smart really are they? Two hoots about going to the moon. I'd rather see my little brothers and sisters in Africa with smiles on their faces rather than chasing donkeys around to get a drink of piss so that they can stay alive. While the Rothschilds, on the other hand, drink from gold-plated taps. Or plated. Oh, they wouldn't plate.
They wouldn't plate anything. That's solid, buddy.
Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, Lord Rothschild.
Yeah, we don't mean to offend you with cheaping you out with 22 karat plate, but it's so true, Santo. And that's the thing, when I wrote an essay, started it earlier in the week and finished it yesterday for the webinar, and it was basically an overview of humanity as being one body. All of us individual, little meat sticks. Representing a single cell of the human organism called humanity. And I forgot where I was going to go with this, but anyway, the bottom line is if we have cancers within our consciousness, i.e. those dark parts of our consciousness that are running around harming other parts of the body, I'll go to the biblical literal reference of if thine eye offends thee, pluck it out. I see it in the as above, so below scenario of if you've got a bad memory, something that, that I'm talking, you remember something that's bad, would it not make sense to purge that and to, confront it and deal with it, get rid of it and move along? And that's effectively what I see happening in an as above, so below sense. And, when you've got parts of our organism that are starving other parts of our organism, the body of humanity is not really in a prime condition to survive. I finish it off with the idea of instead of trying to be a cell of one kind or another, i.e. taking on a uniform and becoming part of the kidney cult or the liver cult or whatever, it's actually become a stem cell and be that part of the body that you need to be at any given time. Like Bruce Lee said, be as water, and be able to mold yourself into the situation rather than have the situation control you. Because you look at every situation out there with regards to police forces and lawyers and judges and politicians and priests and what have you. They're all separate cults. They are organisms, cells in an organism that have gathered together into one body. It's sort of like that to me is the mind control where someone gets taken over in a cult-like mentality. And and of course the ones that you'll say that to will go, "Oh, I'm not in a cult." And I said, "Yeah, you are." I said, "You put on the uniform, you're in the cult. That's your cult, and you won't go against your cult because that goes against your organism, and that organism will pair you off very quickly if you decide to be cancerous to it." But the bottom line is we got to stop buying into the lie. I was also discussing in the essay and on the webinar last night about the Stanford prison experiment, which was done at Stanford University, 1971. Managed to get that back in my head, but anyway, 1971, where a group of students were divided into 2 groups, one playing guards and one group playing prisoners. And the abuse started getting excessive verbal and physical abuse the first day in. It was supposed to go for 2 weeks. They had to stop it after 6 days. And upon interviewing some of the students afterwards, the ones that played the guards, were completely shocked at their own behavior, that they were doing things that they would never normally do, and they were doing them without regret. In the one case, the one gentleman said that it was only after being out of it and looking back in retrospect did the guilt start to finally appear. So that gives you a really good example of what you're dealing with when you're dealing with any of these little cults out there, gathered around in their little robed groups or their little blue uniform groups for their I have a shiny badge club, and politicians and what have you. This is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a cancerous part of our organism that has defied the rest of the organism. And really what we're dealing with here is a situation where we have to take back that control on a cellular one-by-one level in order to heal this organism. And that is, for me, that is upon which humanity lives or dies as a whole, because we all breathe. We start looking at what we have in common. We all breathe, we all feel, we all bleed, we all love, we all cry. We all hurt when we get physically hurt. We all get cuts and bruises, and we all have dreams. We all have hopes. Start looking at things that unite us instead of the silly things that divide us, that have been put there deliberately to divide us. Things like religion, things like these corporate bullshit laws, things like borders. I'm from here, you're from there. That is so old paradigm thinking. That is what the New World Order is trying to sell, and for me, it's an old bag of shit that needs to be tossed in the dumpster, along with whoever's trying to preach it. And this is where we got to start losing the fear and start standing. Anyway, just my couple of cents worth.
Yeah, very well said, Kate. Very well said. Lovely. The uniform, it does create a false sense of power, and which is not there, and people do abuse it, and will regret it sooner or later. Which means if we are all the one creator having separate experiences, it means that the person hurting us with the uniform is actually hurting themselves and postponing their own return to bliss and love, which will require further cycles of necessity, as they call reincarnational cycles of necessity, appropriately named.
Yeah.
But they what they're doing with their uniforms is that they've been tricked by the people who give them orders and a little bit of money to go with it, to sort of make them comfortable while they're fulfilling their crimes. It's called a salary. Soldiers also subscribe to that concept, being sold years, not warriors. But they receive some fictional money for going to Iraq and killing 3 million innocent civilians. It's pay. You get paid and you follow orders. So what is going on is this is part of the creator that is still undergoing pain and is enjoying pain. These types really are addicted to pain. That's what it means. And they're addicted to the lower chakras and stimulating them with fear. You see, when you're living in the lower chakras, you do what's called act out where you live. You know what I mean? By their fruits you will recognize them. You see, if someone's living in their lower chakra, you will notice that by having a conversation with them. And you go, whoops, this person is, well, you can tell it stands out, doesn't it? Now, so you will see it in their actions. And uniforms only magnify, they're like transformers, they sort of grab the pre-existing essential energy of the creature inside it and just multiply it by 6 million. and they get the feeling of, they get a buzz out of that. But you have to pay eventually. Your soul inside the uniform eventually has to do the time and purge those black shades of light out of their soul nature. And we all have to do it. There's no, you have to face the light. There's no other way.
Yeah, it's called facing your shadows. I have to thank Peter. He sent a link into the Skype room, and very valuable information as far as perspective. As far as a lot of things, but I want to share this as well. It's going to be a night of quotes, guys, and it's time to wake everyone up. Not that the people listening aren't, because you're here, so you're awake. That I know. But here we go. This is a quote, and I'll tell you who said it right after, and it goes like this. Naturally, the common people don't want war, but after all, it is the leaders of a country who determine the policy, and it's always a simple matter to drag people along, whether it's a democracy or a fascist dictatorship or a parliament or a communist dictatorship. Voice or no voice, the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. This is easy. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked, and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same in every country. Quote, Hermann Göring, Hitler's Reich Marshal at the Nuremberg trials after World War II. So there you go, guys. I mean, the modus operandi has been the same forever, and it's been the same for every country and on every level. What happens to those of us that dare to stand and speak out? The first thing that they do, and Tammy's went into this in great detail on many occasions, what they do is they immediately marginalize. They defame. They try to destroy everything around that individual so that they have no means of support. And when you're dealing with, one against the system, and a very well-armed and very nasty system, it's no wonder that a lot of people don't stand. But here's where I get to say I did. So did Santo, and so did Tony, and so did many others. And we all stand in our own way. And the minute you see someone being marginalized, you might want to ask yourself a question. What are they doing that's scaring the shit out of the system? Maybe they know something. Instead of going, following the party line of, like reading the bullshit rags they call newspapers, whatever. Like, I don't know. Do people actually still do that? Anyway, whatever. In the case with me, it's they couldn't demonize me enough, and here I was, the individual, very very well known in my community as a benevolent musician, volunteer. Hey, and here's the funny thing. I was a contractor for the Suffolk School Board, Catholic School Board, for 11 years, and I'm the only one in contractor history to ever get a volunteer award. Isn't that funny? Yet they did their absolute best to, undermine my entire life, ostracize me from my kids and Sue, and stole my home, stole car, truck, countless belongings inside, things that my dad had just given me after his recent passing a few months prior. And this is what they do. This is what they do, and we just have to make the choice. And every day, and Tony and I talk about this quite often, and I've talked with Santo about it many times. Every day is a fight to stand in a way that you want to keep manifesting that difference. And I thought to myself this morning, I said to myself, what I have the opportunity to do is the same thing that the ancient teachers did. They stood on a podium and they just spoke, hoping that there were ears out there to hear and eyes to see. And eventually, the change comes. It couldn't come soon enough for us, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up with you. If you are deciding to, say, we need to go to war, you might as well be the one pulling the trigger, because any support of any violence against another human being, you're guilty by association, by omission or commission. Doesn't matter. So we just have to individually, as each individual cell of this body of humanity, have to decide whether or not we're going to do something about it. And, well, we did. We chose to. That's why we do this.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, Santo. No problem. So I just want to flow a little light and love over at Jordan because he was all gung-ho today, and then, like I said, I just got that email about 40 minutes before the show, and he just was not feeling up to it. And, you know, for Jordan to not come and sit in with you, that's saying something because so anyway, flow some light and love at Jordan that he's feeling a whole lot better. But the Fridays again are sacred for you and Jordan, of course, to have these little roundtable discussions.
Kate, I thought of Thomas Jefferson when you were speaking back there when you quoted when you did that quote. He said, and as I've said on this show, there's only two types of governments, right? One that serves you and one that you serve. Anyway, he said, when the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty.
And peace. You know, it's again, you know, how they're trying to play this out. It's no wonder the U.S. government is so terrified of the people, because that is a giant that is awakening. And it wouldn't take much for the as the quote in this goes. Actually, I'm going to scroll down because Jefferson is also quoted in this little article. Where was it? It was the last statement on this. As an aside, consider: isn't it true that the government's fundamental fear of the American people is based on America's capacity to shoot the treasonous whores in the cat house on the Potomac? Does it follow that if government can disarm the American people, Americans will become more fearful of their government? And if by consenting to disarmament we become more fearful, will our added fears render us more likely to be damned? It's a strange question, but I'm led to wonder we keep our weapons in this life in order to minimize the fears that might cost us salvation in the next. Isn't that interesting?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, I've got some great astrotheology things and astrological things I want to share too, Kate, today, but I wanted to touch on that meteor that landed in Russia yesterday. Have you seen the videos?
Oh, yeah, the one they were saying was going to do the flyby and actually hit? That one?
Well, I'm not sure. No, different one, yeah. This one in Russia. Oh, well, look, I'll just grab I'll grab a link. You need to see it, and then I'll start speaking about it, okay?
Oh, yeah. I saw it, and it was quite something. I've never seen a screen light up like that.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. So you've seen it. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I wanted to say was this. I was thinking about meteors and asteroids and meteorites and all of this stuff. It's all star stuff. It's all star stuff. That was a star, you know. We mechanical left brain, I'm talking the consensus way of approaching these objects or these things that light up and come into our atmosphere. But it's all stars, right? Someone's got their
Oh, that's me. On. Sorry, that was me. I thought I was muted. Sorry, Santa. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to do was, since I've watched the 3 parts of Primafields, I was going to suggest to the listeners, please, if you haven't seen Primafields yet, do so. David Lapointe has made a masterpiece. You will understand Walter Russell or natural science. You will understand how it is that this meteorite appears like this. When you see Primafields, you will see, especially in part 2 and 3, he explains more about the science of those two equal and opposite magnetic fields, which confine, in between them, they confine a little space which is both repelling and attracting at the same time. And it's called, he calls it a confinement dome. So you've got these two domes or toroidal fields. One is magnetic, one is electric. One is feminine, one is masculine. One is electric. No, I did that. One is positive, one is negative. One is north polarized, one is south polarized. He explains this in Prima Fields. Just as Walter Russell does, just as I do. It's all syncretism. It all flows perfectly well. And he goes on to say that particles or photons travel around those fields, and they are attracted to that that compartment dome, which is actually just a inverted smaller domes or smaller fields. Now, and what happens is they are attracted to that nucleus, which both repels and attracts. And the energy is coming down into that, through the field, into the confinement dome. And this is where planets and suns are. They are the nucleuses of these fields. This is why we are able to see the rings of Saturn, because Saturn is the only planet in the solar system which has perfectly aligned rotational axis and magnetic axis. The two axes are perfectly aligned, whereas, as we see on Earth, they are not. Whereas all the other planets do have rings, and those rings are not visible because they are not perfectly aligned. And he explains this in Prima Fields, Part 3. But so what our eye sees is the nucleus of very, very, very large bodies, which have larger bodies, which he explains in Part 3. In Part 1, you see the toroidal fields. You know, he makes one side blue and one side red, just like the South Korean flag, the Pepsi logo, the British flag, the American flag. The use of red and blue is prevalent, you see. He uses red for the masculine electric fire and blue for the male, for the feminine magnetic. And what happens is these equal and opposite forces are causing energy, just little satules or little pockets of energy we think are particles, we call particles, and drawing them towards this compartment dome. And they go through one ring called a flip ring, where they flip their polarity. And then they go through the choke ring, and what you are actually seeing is replicated in all the domes that you see around the world. The dome of the Vatican, the Pantheon in Rome, the dome of CERN when you go to Switzerland. You see these domes, and they have these holes at the top, right? Well, those holes, that's the confinement part. That's where matter happens. You see, and the domes, the Vatican dome, all it's telling you is it's one half. That is one half of the magnetic field. The other half is above the dome, invisible. And they are drawing energy into that hole in the middle of the top of the dome. And it is in the confinement part there, you see. And in the Cathedral of St. Paul in Malta, if you Google images of it, you can do that now, you will see angels around the ring, around that hole, and they're pointing to the hole. They're all pointing up, and they're looking at this marvelous hole, as if to say, something special is happening here. And in Prima Fields, he explains that it is. In that part of the dome, that's the flip ring and the choke ring, where the... and if you know my sine wave of the zodiac, you'll know that I go from Aries to Virgo, 6 signs, and then the other half of the signs below the equator are Libra to Pisces. Well, The confinement dome is where Aries and Libra exist. That's where only Libra and Aries are. They are the fulcrums. They are the equinoxes. March the 21st and September the 21st. These fulcrums of balance, perfect balance. That's where the choke zone is. And that's the fulcrum that Walter Russell speaks about. And Walter Russell says there are two equal and opposite fields. One is positive electricity, the other one is negative electricity, which we mistakenly call magnetism, because magnetism is the mother of this force. It is the power of this force that drives this force of positive and negative electricity. Now, so I just wanted to add that, folks, because this is what I'm trying to say. Asteroids and meteors are being pulled in, and they're being pulled towards the confinement dome which surrounds planets. It's like an atmosphere. And they are being pulled through and charging. They've been sucked in to charge and recharge our atmosphere, our solar system, the heliosphere, the magnetosphere, etc. Because there are many confinement zones from these fields, these two equal and opposite magnetic bodies and fields, which as I said, in Prima Fields 1, they show the small toroidal fields, but then in Prima Fields 3, he introduces you to the very, very much larger replicas attached to those two original small toroidal fields. And it goes on and on and on, I think. It's incredible. He also explains there, so these, and the sun is being bombarded as it goes through the photon belt through the dragon's breath, called the photon belt in Aquarius. It's being bombarded with these asteroids. So it's being recharged, it's being supercharged, and so the reason I've encouraged folks to go and watch this is you will really get an insight to meteorites and all of these scary things. It's neither good or evil. It's just these things. This is nature. You will understand nature once you see Prima Fields. It will expand your consciousness and help to explain these things. I just want to add one more thing. He also explains why it is. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the album cover of Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, they had the pyramid, the light prism, and they had the 7 refracted colours go through the prism, and then they refract at an angle, and all at the violet end of the spectrum refracts at a acuter angle than the red end of the spectrum. When you see Prima Fields 3, you will understand why that is. I won't say much more. Suffice to say that the photons of the violet end of the spectrum are much, much smaller, very, very higher frequency. Therefore, their toroidal fields will reflect much on much more of an angle when their fields have just sort of gone past a body or through a prism, okay? Whereas the red photons are much larger, the actual nucleus of this field is much larger and slower vibrating, therefore its angle of refraction is less. Look, a lot of these wonderful mysteries are explained so simply and elegantly as Walter Russell did say, 40, 50, 60 years ago, but he didn't have the graphics that David Lapointe has in Primafields.
Oh yeah, quite something. I've gotten through part 2 mostly. Again, it's just research and what have you. So I haven't had a chance to get on to 3 yet. But yes, absolutely, critical information. He does a great overview of part 1 in the part 2 as well. Not to say that you shouldn't watch part 1. I would certainly suggest to anyone going to watch them, you can't jump to the end of the book in this one. Okay, go 1, 2, 3 in order. And you're right, the graphics and the layouts that Dave Lapointe did are nothing short of astounding. So if you really want to, like you were saying, Son, if you want to get a good overview of how this universe 3D reality really works, there it is. So, Tony, did you see any of the Primafields?
I saw part 1, but when I saw part 1, 2 and 3 hadn't come out, so I must apologise. I haven't seen 2 or 3, but I'm so jumping up and down. I can't wait to go and see them now. As soon as I get a chance, i.e., as soon as possible, I'm going to be going and checking those out, because the information in part 1 was just astounding. All of a sudden, all puts it into a position where it actually cross-references what we already have learned, which is not what the mainstream told us, but actually it makes perfect sense when you add all of the other parts of the pieces of the puzzle together. And Santos and I have talked at length about this, about plasma physics and additional pieces of the puzzle. So yeah, I can't wait to see part 2 and part 3, but I haven't actually got around to it yet. So sorry, I'm ashamed of myself, but there you go.
Oh, hey, listen, you can't be ashamed of yourself, because a lot of people don't understand. We're doing shows 7 nights a week, and for me, I've got a webinar on Thursday on top of that, and I've got with Tony and I've got another show on Wednesday mornings or earlier afternoons, early evening rather, in the UK. So for here's the thing, a lot of people think, well, you get on the air and talk for a couple hours. Yeah, but you better know what the hell you're talking about. So there's a shit pile of research going into every day that we're here, keeping an eye on what's going on, staying with the pulse, and trying to keep up to speed with everybody, so that we can bring these shows to you and actually not sound like we're repeating ourselves, which is a daunting task. So, Tony, no harm, no foul, but because I know you've been pushing real hard with getting this Pope information out as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the stuff I got out tonight was literally breaking news. It was like minutes old. And like I say, I didn't say that and really mean it. It was more of a jovial comment rather than, oh my God, I'm going to jump out the window. There's so much, like you say, going on, and there's so much to do behind the scenes. It's phenomenal. People who have never looked at even beginning to host the radio shows, run websites, do all of the stuff that's involved, wouldn't have a clue, and I wouldn't blame them. But the fact of the matter is, when you actually get into this and actually doing it and pressing the buttons, pulling the knobs and turning the levers, then you actually begin to realise the magnitude of the work that's involved. But anyway, as I was saying, it just fills in the gaps in the jigsaw puzzle. As I've explained before, if you build this like two-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, there might be loads of bits missing. And then when a new piece comes along, you can just slot it in, and then it relates to all the other bits. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because of this, and that makes sense because of that, and it's verified in all these different other areas. It's like noughts and crosses, but you've got the two crosses in the line, so all you're waiting for is the final piece, and then it makes a line. It's like, oh shit, yeah, now I understand it, because it all of a sudden makes sense. And that's purely what we're doing here. We've got this massive jigsaw puzzle. We've got the borders in. We've made a sort of like cross in the middle, and there's 4 gaping holes where we're still adding bits. And it's not quite on 2 dimensions than that. It's more 3, 4, and 5 dimensional rather than just a 2-dimensional thing. But it's all about adding little pieces, a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and cross-reference it, double-check it, triple-check it, quadruple and so check it, to make sure that the information you've actually got is like, whoa, it works, and it doesn't work on one or two levels, it works on many levels. And that's whereby you manage to take the madness of the internet and all this, what looks like spaghetti soup, and connect the dots and connect all the pieces together. It's by cross-referencing the information, or at least that's the way I do it. Other people might do it in another way, but for me it seems to work, and that's what's given me a handle on what's info, misinfo, and what's real and what's not real. And that's just the way I look at things. But I'd like to actually hear some feedback maybe from Santos on that one, because it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, what's that on in particular, Tony?
Just the cross-referencing, really. As I say, I look at several pieces of the puzzle, and intersect where the lines actually intersect. It verifies, vilifies, and confirms what I'm actually looking at as being true. And as I was just explaining, that's the way I use my model of learning to be able to, connect the dots. And it's when those dots can be verified on multiple different levels that they actually confirm as being truths or being confirmed.
That's exactly syncretism, what it means. Verify it on all levels.
Yeah, absolutely. So, beautiful. We're in agreement yet again.
Yeah. And one other point I wanted to bring up, just to throw an astrological curveball in here, and it kind of just dawned on me. I think we've mentioned it before, but when the three of us get together, especially, what we have is Aries. Of course, I want to talk about March and what's coming up. Tony and I were chatting earlier today about, remote viewers can't see past, I think it was March 21st, where it's just white or whatever. And the key instances that occur within March. I think you'll have something to say about that one, Santo. And so you got Santo, Aries, and you got Tony, born on the cusp, a Taurus. Like you were right on the cusp. You don't get any more center than Tony. And
on 9.
Yeah, and then myself at in the Gemini. So we're covering the first three parts of the zodiac. So I don't think that's much of a coincidence. Just wanted to toss that out there.
Well, that reminds me. I didn't finish with the. I was talking about the confinement zone, which had those two rings. Did I mention the choke ring?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating stuff.
Okay, well, that's where the numbers 1 and 7 are, because these toroidal fields express the number 12. 6 is when you watch Prima Fields, the red half is the Aries half, the masculine Aries light half, masculine red fire, and the blue half is from Libra to Pisces, feminine half, and both Libra and Aries are in the confinement dome. They are the number 1, the first sign of the zodiac, and the number 7, the two God numbers. God is 1, and his favorite number is 7. Because God is in the oneness of the nucleus inside the confinement dome, and it is also 7, which turns out to be a neutral 1 when you study your Pythagorean wisdom and your tarot wisdom. You understand this. That 7 is just a neutral 1. 4 is a negative 1. And so forth. So, but that's where Aries emanates from there, and it goes around the red magnetic field until it reaches the outer side of the red dome, and that is where Cancer will be. Cancer is there on the top of the dome of the red toroidal field, right on the outside, right outside. And then it comes back in to Virgo, and Virgo is the sign just before the energy gets sucked into the confinement dome, and then at the equinox, and then it goes out into the blue part, which is Libra. That's how it works. That's how it sinks in with Russell's stuff, and so I'm just added that for you, so when you see Prima Fields, Tony, part 2, you'll know where Aries, the fulcrums are. You'll know where the two fulcrums are that Walter Russell spoke about.
Incredible. Yeah, I was also looking at some of your other information earlier about when you was on QLTV and you were actually talking about how the colours represent the chakras and all that information. And to be able to tie all of this into the one science is incredible. My God, it's like, holy cow. I've run out of words. I wonder if you could give us a couple of words on that one, because that was just awesome stuff when you got the chart there where all the colours were curled into one chakra example. That was incredible.
Yeah, well, if you could see, he shows the size of the field of the violet photon, and he shows it's very small field. It's very penetrative. Whereas the red one is this long vibration. We all know this. We already know all this stuff. But to see it in this context now. So you see, when red light, journeys around through atmospheres, it refracts a lot less because its field is much larger. So it's like drag. You see these race cars, they have the spoilers and fenders designed to, on the back, especially on the back of the car. We used to, when I was young, I was a teenager, I had muscle cars, Chevrolet 308s and 350 Chevys, fully worked, with, those big 600-barrel Rochesters and all of that stuff. I used to do that when I was young. And drag cars, so I know about dragging and about the motor torque and everything like that, and how they how it works. And so now I got off the point because I had this image of my SLR 5000 Ran.
Too funny. Oh, again, talking about the red frequency and having such a large field. Refracting, and Tony had brought up the chakras and how that works.
Yeah, and the fenders. I used to have those silly looking.
Yeah, drag coefficient is what we were talking about.
That's it. And I used to have those silly looking things. I see photos now, and I just conjured up an image of my SLR 5000, very, very muscle car here in Australia in the 70s, And now I look at that car and I think, oh God, I was pretty proud when I was 18, but but those things there, they look good to young men, in muscle cars, but those are very scientific and they help keep the back of the car down so you can do more sporty stuff in terms of, fishtails and handling around curves and for speed and whatnot. So this is how the photons get around. They've got these spoilers, and some of them have got really big spoilers, right? So when they go near another object, that object affects or causes drag on that field. And therefore, he showed in the video how he showed light going, or these toroidal fields just going normally through the atmosphere, and then he put another one through with a laser gun. He shot light through a glass, and he showed how these fields surrounding photons were slowed down when they went through the glass. You could see it. So you could see it slowing down. And then as soon as the photon got through the glass, it returned to normal speed.
Well, one of the things that showed us is light isn't a constant, isn't it?
Exactly. And which means that when these fields within fields causing matter everywhere, when they are in constructive mode and there's no interference patterns, this is healthy. But he showed how destructive mode occurs and interference patterns cause disharmony, and how light is lost through these interference patterns. And immediately I understood how the powers that have harvested this magnetic energy to cause interference patterns in their in their places of worship. And I know that the Jesuits did design a lot of edifices for mind control, with certain geometric forms. And what they are actually doing is creating in microcosm the kind of havoc that certain planetary alignments have, in the heavens, and they do that in architecture, you see, and so they create dissonance and interference patterns in those wave fields, those toroidal fields. It's beautiful. It's exquisite the way David Lapointe has created a masterpiece. He's put it on the internet free. He's doing a great service to humanity. This is the most enjoyable video documentary I've seen for a long time. It's just exquisite.
Yep, I was going to bring another point in while you're hot on this topic. When you talk about the chakras and the red being the lowest, of course it's going to have the biggest spoiler on it, i.e. drag coefficient, and it only stands to reason that by keeping mankind in fear, each and every one of us, what they're doing is they're actually interfering with our ability to be light by keeping us dragged in that red zone drag coefficient. So what we need to do is start drafting each other, just like the race cars do. It's time to lose the fear and start emulating that. And I say emulate, and I mean this very, very, very clearly. Emulate those that are showing the way to not have fear. And literally, I'm not saying to follow, but what I'm saying is to get into that zone so that you can conserve fuel. That's what they do, right? They get in behind the lead car, and they let the lead car take care of all the drag, where they get to draft. That's what it's called, drafting, when they sit just behind it in basically an air-free zone. So they're using a whole lot less fuel, and literally they're being pulled along by the car in front. So
it's moving air, but yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm thinking, with what Sana was talking about with the architecture and changing these flow lines, it only makes sense that they put up these buildings, of course, one, to interrupt that, and two, get people into them so that they're actually in that field and get them in fear, which lowers the frequency of the human. And as a net result, look at that, voila, instant slave. How about that? Lose the fear, guys.
Well, there's actually a bit more to it than that, and I don't want to interrupt anything, but I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'll just...
No, go, I'm done.
And say a couple of bits and pieces. One of them is the spire. That's the most predominant feature on any church. Now, because of the angles of the spire, what it's actually drawing down to earth is a negative low, what's the word? It's a really heavy energy wave that it's actually bringing in. In other words, if you put your hands together and create a shallow pyramid, like the pyramids of Giza, for example, they were generating, harmonious energies within those sacred geometry shapes. But if you look at the spire of a church, it's very steep and very high, and that's generating a low, dense energetic field that's coming in. Now, we can explain how all of this works, but we can't do it in 2 minutes. It takes a bit more research and information first. But also, so there's one example of how the churches have used the low, dense vibration to actually bring those negative energies into the congregation who are sitting right under the spire. And that's just one example, but a further example would be the rock, or should I say the stone that they've used. That's actually generating negative energies as well. Negative ions, to be precise, but that's sort of another area. Plus, you've got the sacred geometry of arches and various other things that are all resonating within those constructions. So there's lots of different aspects, let alone the fact that they're on ley lines, etc., where the negative energy has been actually tweaked to get the ultimate energy out of it, I suppose, or the negative energies out of it. But there are just a couple of different aspects of, the churches, the geometry, the materials, the shapes, and how they generate negative fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything pulls together. Santo, your like your take on the red, the chakra zone, and what Tony brought up as well.
Yeah, well, the slower the vibration, the red, the bigger the field, the higher the frequency of the violet end, the ultraviolet. So this end of the spectrum is higher vibrating. Now, one end has to do with spirit, and the other end has to do with matter. Okay, but it's all just two different polarities of the same consciousness, really. And we see fields. You will appreciate how duality is really just that nucleus of the two fields, the balance point where Aries and Libra is. And this is why I said before earlier, I remember I said that the lamb and the scales, that cardinal axis of the equinox is ecclesiastical and religious. Okay, now I don't know whether I read from Ptolemy. Let's do this. Okay, Ptolemy is, we all know, it's 2nd century astrologer, and everybody likes to bag him who thinks that Copernicus debunked him when Copernicus, quote unquote, discovered that the planets are on a revolve around the sun. So we changed our Ptolemaic opinions of the Earth being the center of everything, you see. And so Copernicus rocks up, and these types, Galileo, and so Ptolemy's debunked all of a sudden, and all of the ancient astrologers, and now we've got it right, and now we're so modern and so clever, we've got telescopes, so we can see all this, blah, blah, blah. Well, because they're so stupid and ignorant, and they've lost the science, they don't realize that Ptolemy was speaking about a different hierarchy system, which I have explained in my presentations, and I won't do it now. I'm looking for where Ptolemy explains this thing about the cardinal and the... there we go. Okay, found it. Okay, I'm reading from Ptolemy, the Tetrabiblios, page 57, and then I'll go back to the Prima fields. He says, the equinoctial signs further indicate the circumstances liable to happen in ecclesiastical concerns and in religious matters. Well, there it is. That's Aries and Libra, number 1 and number 7, in the middle of the Taurus field, in the balance points, in the fulcrums. One initiates the positive red, and one initiates the negative, so-called negative blue. And that's ecclesiastical, because it's spiritual, it's in the balance. It's our spirit nature. But see, these toroidal fields, so-called, that appear to have some form, and hence displacement of equilibrium, you have Cancer and Capricorn at the top of the domes of these fields. And so you see how the cardinal points work. And this is what he goes on to say about the cardinal points now. The tropical signs give warning, tropical meaning Cancer and Capricorn, give warning of changes in the atmosphere in political affairs. So, changes in atmosphere and in political affairs. Okay? So, this Capricorn, where Pluto is at the moment, this is all political and atmosphere, quote unquote. Okay? So, read between the lines there. And then he goes on to say that the fixed signs have to do with changes in institutions and buildings, and the bicorporeal signs show that the future event will fall alike on princes and their subjects. But the ones in concern that we're concerned with here are the cardinal signs. So you've got the equinoctial signs are ecclesiastical, equinox ecclesiastical, and the tropical signs have to do with atmosphere and political. So we all know that Aries is occupied by Uranus the revolutionary in ecclesiastical affairs, and you can see what's going on in ecclesiastical matters, can't you? More light is being spread through these agencies of truth than what the ecclesiastical types are prepared to dispense with. So people going to churches are like sitting there warming seats going, when are we going to learn something actually? Are we ever going to really learn anything in this church place? Or do we just get to hear about Jesus is going to save us and Jesus had 12 apostles and all of this literal crap that is really just stories, great stories, by the way, but made in an anthropomorphic sense for children. Simple as that.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. And really, all it does is satiates the low level needs of childlike comfort in thinking that somehow mommy or daddy is going to protect you. No, we have to grow up, and in doing so, we will become the children again in the right way instead of the way we were led off this most perfect trail by, say, the less than positive aspects of our consciousness here.
Yeah, another way to actually look at this is maybe looking at it from a different perspective. That everybody, the majority of people that have been brought up with mainstream have been brought up as children, and it's only when you decide to actually look into all of this stuff yourself when you realise how badly you've been misled, and then you can look at it from a different perspective. Then, how can I put it? You have to relearn everything you thought you knew, because what you thought you knew was wrong, and therefore when you've gone back and done that work, then you can be as children again with the correct information. Yeah, so I'm completely in agreement. I suppose it's just different words, but yeah, all cool.
Yeah, and Uranus being in Aries, we know from the microcosmic atom Cadmon that's the head, the cerebrum. So all of those people going to churches that were like me 10 years ago, bored out of their freaking minds, sitting there for 2 hours. I was a Jehovah's Witness, and we'd do the Watchtower for an hour. That public talk by some boring elder that travelled from some boring country congregation, and you got to listen to an hour of brothers and sisters, Jehovah is good, and the devil, well, he's bad. Like Ned Flanders, pretty much. And you got to listen to that repeated 476 times, because we the sheeple need reminding of Jesus' kind, loving reminders, but you don't learn anything. So people are leaving the churches in their droves because the pastors have actually forgotten about the asters. You see, their holy books, as much as they naysay like idiots and donkeys, are actually astrology, which I have proven. All the numbers in the Bible, every single one of them are pure astrology. In fact, the two archetypes, the most famous archetypes of the churches, are the tree of life and the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. The tree of life is the longitudinal lines on the earth, and in the sky those are called right ascension. Because that's life, you see. Globular organisms, which the whole universe is made of, are actually spinning, and so they're living, and so the axes that they spin on are called the tree of life, because that's how you get to live. You got to move and spin. Everything spins. Toroidal spins. And the tree of knowledge is the other axis, the east-westerly axis. And why would that be the tree of knowledge of sometimes called good and evil? You may as well call it light and dark, hot and cold, and every other dualism you've ever known of, because it's telling you the story of two. The tree of life is one. You only have one life. You are. Everything is. So it's one. That's what God is. We, the people, one. But the other tree, the other axis gives you two things. And how does it do that? Well, it's funny how when you look at the latitudinal lines, and in the skies that's called declination, if you study the latitudes, you might notice that summer and winter are caused by the latitudinal axis and motion going on in our solar system. That's what is otherwise known as good and evil. Good and evil. Yeah. So there you have it. I mean, here they are. Oh, there was a tree in the Garden of Eden, brothers, and it was called the tree of life. And then they go on and they talk about this other tree, and then they've got all these very, very literalistic explanations for what these trees are, you know. But because they've, as Jesus said, woe to you, bunch of freaking idiots, scribes, Pharisees, lawyers, Sadducees, whatever you want to call yourselves. You've thrown away the keys of knowledge, and you're not going in, neither are the morons that go to your churches that love the abuse that you give them. Their children.
Oh, exactly. A comment in the room from Ragdoll, and as soon as you started talking about everything has spin, and being the tree of life. And isn't it interesting that when we talk about creating lies, how is the media going to spin this? So in a literal sense, what you're saying is how is the media going to spin this, or how is the media going to breathe life into this by getting others to agree with it? So very very pertinent point there that people need to be aware of. And really, what it boils down to is just finally getting that ability to say, no, I'm not going to buy your bullshit anymore. I made a comment to a friend this morning with regards to, people can consider you paranoid. Says, no, you're just being mindful of all perspectives. It's like when we talked about the asteroid earlier. There's a gentleman I get videos from periodically called Gumanthon, and he puts together some pretty neat little, and they're not very long, neat little videos, but he put one up today that outlined something that I thought was a rather neat perspective with regards to this DA 14 2012 or whatever the hell that asteroid that was supposed to bypass us, and what he brought to the table was it didn't bypass us, and what they did was let it enter the atmosphere just to see what would happen. Because, really, I went to one of the stream sites, I forget, SOOH, one of the telescopes, and I got to tell you, if that's the best NASA can do in terms of tracking an object with a telescope, it was like watching a really bad version of the old 1980s asteroids game. This little white blip coming across the screen. I'm thinking, if you can see it that well, you're supposed to be able to see it with binoculars, let alone a telescope. And they're trying to say that the best they can do is this, maybe 100 pixel white dot moving across a screen from NASA. Are you kidding me? Anyway, but he made a very interesting point in that they let this meteorite actually land to see what would happen, and we're talking over 1,000 injuries, guys. 270 buildings that were damaged, a factory basically destroyed. That's not a small rock that is a couple of meters across. It takes a bit more than that, especially given that it exploded high in the atmosphere. And there were 3 different cities that were reporting damage as well. That's not a small piece of rock. That is a considerable mass of asteroid. So, I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm going to look at it both sides of it, and based on the fireball I saw and the smoke trails that came in, that was not a 1 or 2 meter across stone. That was a very, very large hunk of cosmic real estate coming through our atmosphere. Just my point.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on that for a second as well. If we look at John Leonard Wolfson's images that this guy has taken some observatory, some images from his back garden, basically. He's had loads of hassle from the military authorities and all sorts of things, black helicopters, you name it. And we're looking at craft outside in these videos that are absolutely huge. And these things are as big as cities, if not much, much bigger. John Leonard Wolfson is his name, so, anybody can find it. And these are actually the things that brought down those towers, etc. If you look at, the capabilities of deatomization, etc. So any of these things that they're letting through, and I'll reiterate that, they're letting through, or they're actually firing the things down here, one of the 2, 3, whatever. If you cross-correlate that information with Werner von Braun's information with that first it's going to be terrorists, then it's going to be asteroids, and the third and the final card is going to be an alien invasion, etc., etc., all of which is going to be lies. Now, cross-correlating that with many different aspects of this whole thing, including, governments and the hidden truth on anti-gravity free energy and all the rest of it, this is another ruse. If they allowed that thing to come through, and I'm absolutely on the ball with Kate on that, I completely agree, it was allowed to come in, because when you see the state of the technology and the information, the level of the advanced stuff that they've got, as oh crikey, what's his name? As we were told by the previous CEO of Skunkworks, when he actually went public on his deathbed, basically, and admitted anything you can possibly think of, we've already got. And again, that's listed in the book, etc. But they are running things down here. Every single thing is happening, whether it's a false flag, whether it's an economic crisis, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's a war, whether it's a famine, a disease. All of this stuff is being controlled, and they're controlling a lot of it. Now, we need to break it down a step at a time, but it still remains the same. We are being farmed, controlled, and coerced into doing exactly what they want us to do. So I just thought that was a relevant point to put that information across. Please, any questions or anything else are more than welcome, but that's what's going on. We have a breakaway civilization. Look up Richard Dolan, who was ex-MOD, and he went public in Amsterdam, and he said, we've got a breakaway civilization. Look up Timothy Good, again, somebody else will talk about it. Texi Mars, he'll talk about it. There's lots of people, it's not me just talking about this, there are a lot of people that actually are out there. I can't say mainstream, because you don't get this on BBC or Channel 4. Anyway, but there's lots of people that are aware of this situation now, simply because the information that we have derived and can receive is way, way, way beyond question anymore. The question that only remains is, have you looked and have you studied? And that's the point. We are being controlled down here. We always have been. And until we actually get this, we always will be. So, as I say, I do believe that we're cracking the egg now. The Roman situation's coming down. The Pope's, well, again, go to Syncrenicity.com and check out the headlines on the front pages. It's all there for you. But yeah, we're cracking the egg. It's time for this information to get out, and it's got to be quick as well. That's the point. The sooner the better. But
Yeah.
having said that, that's my interjection.
Yeah, just wanted to throw one other thing in. I mentioned already, and I'll keep mentioning it. The magnitude of what's going on with Rome is, you got to remember that the entire legal system was built on it. Rome comes down, it all comes down. Legal, money, all of it. And that's what we need to have happen. We need to get rid of these fake paradigm illusions that have us, competing with each other instead of working with each other. It doesn't make sense. They talk about competition is good for business. No. No, sorry. Competition actually hurts production of beautiful creative ideas, and for the each individual's being ability to create. All it does is competition taxes it and it destroys it. What we need to do is, if you have two people working on the same idea, competing with each other to get there first, it will take twice as long as both of them getting together and saying, let's do this, let's get this done, with the intent of helping each other, and of course, at the end of the day, helping mankind. Wouldn't it be a lot easier if we just simply had a replicator, if we needed, food or whatever? Wouldn't it make a whole lot more sense to be able to draw on the free energy of this universe that is ours, in order to, travel from here to there with or without a car, if you're following what I'm saying? Doesn't that make a whole lot more sense? So those that are out, in the dog-eat-dog competitive world, what do you really get? Yeah, there's that urge to move forward and excel, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to excel at the expense of someone else just to give you a physical illusion sense of accomplishment. No, how about we just have a look at things for what they really are? If somebody comes up with, like Dave LaPointe came up with these beautiful videos, where he might have a patent or something on it, that's fine. But what he's doing is he's making all the information available to everyone. And well, we all know how patents work anyway. But the bottom line is, word's out, guys. Word's out on the street, and that's what we're coming into. We're in the age of Aquarius, which says, "I know." We're done with the believing bullshit, at least for 26,000 years. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty damn close.
Yeah. Kate, the people who promote the concept of competition too, that you spoke about before, being healthy, it only comes from one source, and that's the banking kingdom of the bankster mind, the criminal mind. Because they know that the system was set up whereby our birth certificates would enable us to be able to sign off and create money against the bond that is created at our birth. So they know that that's what they want you to sign their papers, because our signature is what gives them access to our power, our true power. So we just want to turn around and say, hey, we've all got one of them their birth certificates, and why don't we just take away the power to create money to the Federal Reserve, which is actually illegal anyway, and defunct, and their kingdom is over, blah, blah, blah. And why don't we stop competition by eliminating the competitors? And how you do that is, if you see a competitor type, like a Rothschild brain, would go to a market and want to corner the whole market. And how you do that is like this. If someone makes cars, well, you use your signature or your power to get 100% production from that car maker, and you corner that market by buying all the cars. Because you've got more power to create money. So you've cornered the market. And how we stop that is we return to the original way a republic's supposed to work, because the United States is still a republic, hello, and we just use our own power in the signature to create money. Banksters don't need to exist. Our signatures is sufficient. They're eliminated as per the power of the pen in our individual hands, but never sign any of their putrid, filthy, Baal-worshipping, lost-for-lucre papers. Their dirty pieces of paper need to be, recycled and turned into, say, toilet paper or something useful. But we need to return to our power, folks. The signature is in our hands. It is our hand our very own hand that betrays us when we articulate a signature on a bit of their paper, which returns ultimately in some form of royalty back to the Vatican via rates and taxes and levies and whatever other crap that they make up. They just invent this shit up and we just go, oh yeah, well, yeah, we'll go along with that.
Yeah, when you stop and think of the church as money and all the rest of it, they could feed this planet 1,000 times over. And here they are supposed to wanting to be, saving, quote, our souls, unquote. Okay, are you doing that by, starving the people to death? Are you doing that by fomenting wars? Of course they are. That's what they do. Again, it's about keeping it in that low frequency zone of fear and get everybody thinking that, your neighbor's your enemy. I mean, they're pulling the same tactics now that they pulled in Nazi Germany. If you see something, say something. Yeah, okay. Well, I see a whole lot of fucking criminals in the White House and Buckingham Palace and in the Vatican. I
can see that.
Yeah, I can see
that. I can see it from here.
From here, exactly. Yeah. So, it's time that we make these criminals accountable and just kick them the hell out. And it's not about harming others either. This is about public ridicule. This is about the people finally standing. And you don't understand your power. I mean, this is the irony of it all, is we actually have all the power, and we are, literally beaten down to the point where we don't think we do, but we do. We are the ones. Why do you think they're doing that? Because they know this. And the more that they can keep a population in fear, it goes back to Jefferson's words again. A government afraid of its people, there's going to be peace. Where we get on with our day-to-day lives and we sort out our own issues like grown-ups instead of, so fucking cry me a river. What you want to go and pay a bunch of lawyers on both sides of the equation that are going to get filthy rich off you, and then of course they're only going to be milking your bond in the court anyway. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost you more in legal fees than you're going to get out of it because you couldn't be grown up enough to settle your differences amicably, like compassionate, loving beings. Here's the basic truth: somebody screws you over, walk away. Just walk away. You know who not to deal with, and hopefully you got them out of your life cheap. And I'll tell you, all it takes is you want real justice. Is well, so and so did this to me, and you tell a few people, and it gets around real quick. And this is how we manage ourselves. We take care of our own business. We don't need someone else walking in there trying to play Papa like the fucking Pope. Oh, please, cry me a river. The guy looks just like the Emperor from Star Wars. And I just leafed through that notice that was sent out with regards to the Pope is not going to be leaving the Vatican, the country of the Vatican, because he's going to be arrested immediately the second he sets foot off there. But all that's doing is showing the collusion of the Italian government. So they're not doing themselves any favors here, guys. And the truth of the matter is, once the word gets out that the Pope is hiding out because of crimes against humanity, that's going to get down to the parishioners eventually, and they're going to start asking, really, what did he do? And it's just an awakening upon awakening. The tsunami has hit. It is now pushing forward. Let's just give it a little help. Call it for what it is.
Yeah. What did he do? What did the Pope do? Well, I think he allowed a few million powerful Catholic people free liberty to, play with little boys, and you can get away with it because we'll look after you. Don't worry. I think you might be guilty of that. Catholic people, are anyone Catholic people listening? Hello? I don't think so.
I don't think they'll be tuning in to us, Santo. I'll be perfectly frank on that one. They will be soon, though. They will be soon. People just... here's something that you can do to be proactive, Catholic or otherwise. What you need to do is find your local diocese. Love the words. Parish? Are you shitting me? Yeah, they're telling you, come to the parish. And, parish. Anyway, what you need to do is just, grab some emails and just start firing this around, not just, the priests and what have you. Start firing it off to the community groups that are involved with these churches and, start planting some seeds. Let's go for a major harvest here, a major truth harvest.
And when the Jehovah's Witnesses knock, just say, go and have a look at Santos Bonacci's Syncretism and see the true theology. It's astrology, and find out what your birth sign is and all the aspects in your chart. Find out how you can heal yourself, how you can, find, what your path is in life, and how you can better use those energies that you have. I see you're very zealous. I can see that. Perhaps there's something in your chart that you can use to really, really help humanity rather than spin fictions when you knock on people's doors, and learn the true theology.
Yeah, it is that simple. And by the way, just remind them that, if you want to see Jehovah, if you really want to see Jehovah, pop by tonight, as long as it's a clear night, and I'll show you Jehovah in the stars. You say you've never seen Jehovah? Well, let me show it to you.
Oh, you want to show the Jehovah's Witnesses, go to Revelation chapter 14 and read that and say, hey, do you want me to show you the 144,000 with the Lamb of God on... Well, actually, look, let's read the scripture, because I don't know how many times I preached it at people's doors. Poor people. Sorry, everyone. Here's me.
I love you.
Here's me on a Sunday morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Brilliant.
Hello, how are you? Look, I want to share a scripture with you this morning that's no doubt going to be very encouraging. It might seduce you into the Rockefeller-funded, mind-controlled, Tavistock, B'nai B'rith-funded mind control organisation called the Watchtower Tract Society. Stop there. Whoops. Corporation's the next word, but I don't actually mention that it's the Watchtower Tract Society Incorporated. Kind of stop at society, because it sounds nasty when you tell people that you're working, knocking on people's doors, waking them up at 8:30 in the morning to talk about Jehovah, but you're incorporated. Sort of doesn't gel. But anyway, Revelation 14, and I saw and look the Lamb standing upon Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his name, make a note of that, and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. All right, well, let's have a look at astrology, shall we? So you do a circle, and you put 12 30-degree pies in the circle. Easy to do. You learn how to do it at kindergarten. Then you put, in those 12 signs, astrology has characters for them. They are the astrological characters. But in those 12 30-degree segments, you can put another 12 little 2.5-degree segments. So you put another zodiac within a sign. So you've got, in the sign of Aries, you will have another fractal of the zodiac. So you will have 2.5. It will be 12 2.5-degree segments. It will start with Aries and finish with Pisces. Then you go to Taurus, and Taurus will start with Taurus and end with Aries. Then you go to Gemini. Gemini will start with Gemini. And these are called dards, spelt D-W-A-A-D. Dards. They are 2.5. Note 2.5, because the moon spends 2.5 days in a sign. But you might want to note that 12 times 12 is 144. Having the name of the Lamb, that's Aries. You see, each one of these signs you will see Aries. Aries is the first one in the sign of Aries. Aries is the second dard in the sign of Taurus. Aries is the third dard in the sign of Gemini. Aries is the fourth dard in the sign of Cancer, etc., etc., etc. And so the Lamb, these 144,000, there's 144 moons basically in terms of transits of signs. The moon transits 144 signs of the zodiac in a 360-degree ecliptic. And the throne they stand on is the throne that the Lamb stands on. You see, Aries is the start of everything. Aries rules the zodiac. It's the cerebrum, which commands the whole body. In fact, it commands the cerebellum, and the cerebellum is the motor brain, which relays through the medulla oblongata and through the nervous system, the tree of life. That's the tree of life in the microcosm. Now, so Aries, this is the Lamb of God, the Saviour, because, of course, all the series, the cerebrum, series, the cereals, come from, the manna from heaven come from Ceres, from the holy claustrum, the Santa Claus, the Saint Claustrum in the cerebrum. And so that's why it's the Saviour. Aries, the Lamb. So these 144, they are standing on the throne of God. It gets really good, doesn't it? I'm having a lot of fun with this, man. I mean, the Bible is such a beautiful astrological book. The secrets therein are just... I'll tell you what, I'll save some good stories for next week too. Remind me next week, we'll do the last chapter in the Gospel of John where where Peter brings in a haul of fish and they count the number of the fish and it turns out to be 153. Just punch 153 in Google, the number of the fish, and just open your mind as to why that number was chosen when Jesus was resurrected and ready to depart into the heavens. And they counted the fish, like those fish wanted to be famous. Oh, count me! Oh, I'm here! I want to be in the gospel. I'm the 153rd fish. If you can't get me in the gospel, at least get me into a Monty Python product.
A fish called Wanda. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Or I'm referring to the life.
I know.
You know?
Yeah. I totally. It pulls back into the whole Monty Python thing. And I got to tell you, the best representation I've ever seen of religion was done in the life of Brian, and it totally brought to the big screen the concept of, well, you know, we're a revolutionary group and let's have a meeting, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and then they're sitting around going, okay, well, we have to have an emergency meeting to decide when we're going to have an emergency meeting to deal with this. You know, so it's always about never getting anything done and you know, running in circles. But you're right, you know, and also to go back on the 153, you know, Bill Donahue brought the perspective of it as well in terms of numerology. How this all works together is beautiful. But 153 brings the number 9, which is, of course, consciousness. And, you know, when you start really seeing how everything intertwines with everything, the world, as crazy as it is, it actually starts to make a little bit more sense. And what we're doing right now is we are in the fledgling realms of all this information finally coming back into the consciousness, flowing back like a mighty river. The waters of truth, go figure. You know, this is your Nile Delta, your mind. So it's time to flood it, and let's get on with the game. You know, Sandra, you're an absolute hoot tonight. You know, you've got to say Jesus at least 2 more times before the end of the show. We've got another 8 minutes or so, but we need to hear that at least, and a couple of yes. Okay.
Well, do you want to know some facts about Jesus and his holy book, the Bible? You want to learn some facts about Jesus?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, here's some facts. The circumference of the sun is exactly 2,592,000 miles. The Egyptians knew it because the precessional cycle is 1/100th of it, and so this is why their pyramids, in particular the Grand Pyramid, that Charles Piazzi Smith, the Scottish astronomer of the 1800s, who was a great influence on Charles Taze Russell, the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses. He wrote a book, which I have, right to my right of me, The Great Pyramid, okay? Now, he believed that God made the Great Pyramid, right? So, and God did, in another dimension, God. So, but these guys are very linear thinking types, but nonetheless, he discovered that, along with Russell, and I can prove that Russell knew about precession. He knew about 25,920 year cycle that the Egyptians mastered, because they knew the circumference of the sun, and they knew that if you add 2 zeros to the end of the precessional figure, you get the circumference of the sun. Now, don't go to Wikipedia and see what the consensus guys tell you that it's 27 million miles, because they do. And it's going to take a lot of explaining to look, probably I suggest read the book Key to the Bible and Heaven by Ludwig B. Larson. Ludwig B. Larson. And he has an explanation there. So, but they knew this. We still know it, even though we think it's 27 million miles. Rest assured, it's the precessional figures, and we can't escape those figures. 144 are in those figures. What is 144 if not a fraction of 360 degrees and the circle? And if it's not a precessional number, 60. Why do we have 60 minutes and 60 seconds and 24 hours? The Babylonians and the Egyptians handed this wisdom to us, and we have never questioned it. We have never ever questioned this, and we've never gone into the anthropology of this and the antiquity of this. And the antiquity is explained in our holy writings. We, poo-poo some of them when we call them myths. But they're not myths. None of them are. They're all science based on this. And they all explain that they all have knowledge of the solar science. The dimensions of the sun. In fact, if the radius of the sun is then 432. Well, that's the hertz that we have in music. And that Pythagoras knew about that. We have evidence that Pythagoras knew about the radius of the sun, because everyone tuned their A to 432 hertz. Now it's 440 due to Hitler's boy. So, but it.
Oh, you dropped off a little bit there, Santo. Are you there? Hello, Santo.
Perfect timing.
Oh, yeah, we just lost him. So just yeah, we got like 4 minutes left here. So I'll see if I can bring him back into the call for the last couple of minutes. So where are we here? And yeah, it's calling him back right now. So we'll see. He might have just went offline. Anyway, we've got about a little over 4 minutes. Might as well get our gratitudes in right now. Thanks to Paul and Elisa and the crew at Critical Mass Radio, always for giving us this platform every night, where we can share this truth with everyone, and where you guys can go out and make a difference. We're just doing what we can here, bringing the information to the table for you in as quick a fashion and as concise a fashion as possible, with as much accuracy as we can muster at all points, cross-referencing and whatever. So we got you back, Santo?
Yeah, at what point did I disappear?
Hitler. You just said 432 hertz, brought to us by none other than Joseph Goebbels. So there you go.
Yeah, anyway, the point being 72, 36. Oh, well, look. All right, so I did mention 60 minutes and seconds. Where do we get that from? Well, astrology has the answer. Of course, it's the mother of all sciences. There's such a thing in astrology called terms. So every sign will have 5 terms. Aries has got 5 terms, Taurus, Gemini, and so 5 times 12 equals 60. And so there's that. And there are decans, and so every sign is divided into 3 decans of 10 degrees. Well, 3 times 12 is 36, and if it isn't the number of the sun, it's the number of the sun. And see, and the Bible has these numbers encoded right the way through it, without exception. Every single number you see in the Bible, and I'll be doing sermons one day with the Bible. I'll be doing true sermons, like the Reverend Robert Taylor was doing in England at the Devil's Pulpit in 1830. Yeah, I'll be doing those. I'm doing them already.
Awesome. I know you want to carry on. We got about 2 minutes left here. There's very important information I need to get out regarding you, Santo. People, if you can, pop by the website www.bonaccithefilm.com. That's BONACCITHEFILM.com. bonaccithefilm.com. That's a new page in English where you guys can go and donate to get Santo to Ecuador to get the movie done, get Bonacci the film done. So I just wanted to get that out. Johnny just tagged me, and thank you for that, Johnny. But anyway, we got about a minute and a half here, so any closing comments? We've already said the gratitude, so take her away.
No, I've about said what I've had to say, Kate. Thanks, but yeah, next week I'll probably do a little sermon on the 153. How about that? And a little bit more. Okay, well, we'll remember that. You know, the Pisces, the fish, 153 of them. Also, just to let people know that we're going to be on, we're Eagles Soar tomorrow night here on Critical Mass Radio with none other than Kyler Davenport. And of course, Santo, you're welcome to sit in any show. It's always beneficial in more ways than I can even think of counting. And of course, hanging out with you and Tony. Kate. Yeah. Kate, I do have something exciting that I want to share. If you can, listeners, subscribe to School of the Holy Science too, because I'm doing a webinar and I'm really excited with the stuff I'm teaching there. Okay, it's this stuff, what I'm doing here, you know. But I've got you can see the visuals. I've got my whiteboard. I go through the sine wave. I go over and over, and we're learning the best astrology on the planet at School of the Holy Science, and I'll be bringing that to Syncrenicity too, of course, absolutely. And so. But we got lots. Oh yeah, absolutely. School of the Holy Science. So, and don't forget also we do the shows on QL Television. Tony and I Monday, and Santo you do Tuesday and Thursday. I'm not sure. Thursdays, yeah. So anyway, thanks again everyone for tuning in tonight. Santo, a pleasure, and I know next week Jordan will be with us. I know he felt bad not being able to make it tonight. I just hope he's feeling a lot better. But again, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight and being a part of the truth. Isn't that cool? We're on the record section, Tony, so if you want to say anything, go ahead, and then we'll shut her down. Just wanted to say thank you, Santos, for coming and joining us tonight. It's been absolutely awesome as usual. And thanks to the listeners for listening in. Again, there's a lot of stuff going viral right now, including, you know, all sorts of stuff about the Pope, the Vatican, etc. So if you can get yourselves down to Synchronicity front page, you'll see it all there right in front of you. But apart from that, it's all cool. And thank you, Kate. Thank you, Santos. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Lord, for being here and seeing this wonderful time. Oh yeah, yeah. Sano, Tony, thank you guys so much. And again, don't forget, tune in tomorrow night. Every night we got a show going here on Critical Mass Radio. This is one of the hosts, because there really isn't a host tonight, so it's kind of an open forum. But this is Kate of Gaia signing off, saying much love to all, and we'll catch you on the next one. Talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.